Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know by now I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today I'm really excited to review, well, it isn't really a video or photographic product, although it's integral to my video and photography, and it is the new Mac Mini, which I've got here, the new Mac Mini M1 chip. Now, those who are not familiar with Macs or not familiar with the M1 chip, it's a new chip developed by ARM, but apparently manufactured by Apple, I suppose in conjunction with ARM. I'm not quite sure what the connection there is. Maybe it's been designed by ARM, manufactured by Apple, I don't know. But it's a specific chip for Mac computers. And at the moment, it's in the new Mac Mini, it's in the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air, and everyone is raving about it. I mean, literally raving about it. You've only got to go onto YouTube, you'll see for yourself. But there isn't a bad word said about the M1 chip. So I thought, well, it's time that I got one. I need to see if it is all hype or whether it's all true. And I can tell you, overall, I am mighty impressed. I absolutely think it's fabulous. So I can see it isn't hype. It is. Not just that it's faster. I ain't particularly bothered how long it takes for an app to open, whether it takes 5 seconds or 50 seconds. It doesn't really make any odds to me. But what does matter to me, as a content creator, being able to create content efficiently, reasonably fast, accurately, and without the computer, without the spinning wheel of death that you get with, you know, virtually every computer. And I film everything in 4K. So again, I'm working with 4K timelines. Quite often I let it in 1080 on a 1080 timeline, but I still get that dreaded stutter where the frames drop, and it just becomes a real non-pleasure. It becomes a real headache for editing. But with this one, it's got the, as I say, this new M1 chip. I'll just quickly go through the specs. I'm not really interested in specs per se, but you might as well know what the specs are of the one I've got. So it's the M1 chip, integrated 8-core GPU. That's for the graphics display. That's how technical I know about it, but it's got an integrated GPU. It's got 8 gig of RAM, unified RAM. From what I can gather, unified means it's soldered to the motherboard, so it works better and it works faster. Now, it has only got 8 gig of RAM in it, but I tell you what, it is really, really good. I'm opening several programs at the same time. I'm not having any issues with slowness, with it hanging, you know, crashing and all that sort of malarkey. I've got 12, the base model comes with 256 gig of internal SSD memory. I've got the one with 512. So it's a bit slightly larger, you know, storage. That's hard drive storage. It's got 2 Thunderbolt ports, USB-C, which is quite interesting. The original Thunderbolt ports weren't USB-C. They were sort of an Apple proprietary, Gordon Bennett, you know the word, a specific Apple type socket. Now they're USB-C, which is pretty standard. I've actually got my external display running via HDMI, because it's got HDMI on this Mac Mini, and this display running via the USB-C display port to a HDMI connection. 2 USB 3 ports, a standard USB 3 ports. I've got all my hard drives plugged into them, an Ethernet connection, HDMI, and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is really useful because I've got the audio going through an external sort of speaker system, Wi-Fi, obviously Bluetooth, and that's about it really for the specs. But what I want to get into is how great it is for content creation and for photographers. So let's just get rid of that. We don't need that on this. Everything you do is just responsive. So if we load up Final Cut Pro, now that's a power hungry bit of software, and it loads it in no time whatsoever. What was that, 2 seconds? Something like that. I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it? But I mean, that doesn't particularly bother me, but it just goes to show how fast the SSD drive is in the computer, how it's just how optimized it is. Because if you're running Apple software, be it Final Cut Pro, Logic that I use, Pages, Keynote, etc., then it runs really fast. Because the M1 chip is actually optimized for Apple software. And I can scroll through this 4K timeline without any hiccups, without it dropping frames. It's just as smooth as anything. It's really, really good. That's just running beautifully smooth. I've got a nice Samsung curved, I think it's a 4K monitor. I'm not sure it's a 4K monitor, but I do think it is. So isn't that wonderful? Just working great. Now, most of what I do is multicam editing. So if we look at the, how many angles? So we've got four angles on this particular project. We can see them clearer if I get rid of some of this. So we can see that clearer. So I'm running four 4K streams, video streams. Now I have created proxy files for these. So if you're running off proxies, it is going to be faster, and it shouldn't spit and fart and what have you. And it doesn't. But it's just so smooth, even with only 8 gig of RAM in the computer. It isn't user upgradable, so you have to buy the computer with the spec that you want. So I just went for 8 gig because I'd watched so many reviews. They said 8 gig of RAM, unless you're doing incredibly intensive multitasking. I tend to run just Final Cut Pro, and I might load Affinity Photo or Photoshop in the background. So I'm not doing a lot of multitasking, but I'm doing a lot of multicam editing. And even with 8 gig of RAM, it's handling that fine. Now, if we look at this project here, it's running 4 streams of 4K video. Now, I have converted them to proxy files. I tend to do that as I import the clips. I create proxy files. I find it a lot more fluid working with proxy files than I do working with, files, well, the original 4K files. But if we play this now, absolutely smooth as anything. You can see, you might not be able to see on the main monitor with one of these cameras, maybe picking it up, but it's running really smooth. And all the other 4 video streams are running really, really smoothly. As it is running in proxy mode, I think if I run it in without it being in proxy mode, I think it will stutter. It may not. The timeline isn't. That's running quite fine. That's incredible. But I think that will stutter if I try running that. Yeah, it's stuttering. That's completely, and it's come up with a warning message. So, 8 gig of RAM isn't enough. It's either the RAM or, it's just not, even the M1 chip isn't powerful enough to run 4 streams of 4K. But with my previous 27-inch iMac, I couldn't even run 1 stream of 4K without it stuttering. This runs completely beautiful, no problem at all. And also importing the footage, when you I create the proxy files as I import them, and I find that's just a lot easier. It takes ages when you're importing a 4K clip. This computer, it renders the proxy files really, really quick. And also exporting, when you're exporting files, this does it so quick. So there's so many benefits that this computer has. And I say 8 gig of RAM's fine. I can load Lightroom and Photoshop has now been configured and been optimized for the Apple M1 chip, which is great because it hasn't been optimized, but it is now. So there's me as a little one, little babby. Bloody hell, that's going back a few years, isn't it? Gordon Bennett. I don't know who's who though. I think that's me on the left. I'm pretty sure that's me on the left. But look how snappy Lightroom's working. Absolutely sweet as a nut. Yeah, everything's working fine. And I'm still running Final Cut Pro in the background, so I could be rendering, videos in the background and Sorting through photographs in the foreground, that's not a very exciting album to look at, is it? I do so many. You know, it's all just smooth, isn't it? There's no... Look how quick it's rendered that image. I think that's a 45 megapixel image as well. Oh no, that's on the Olympus, so that isn't, that's just with, yeah, I mean, even if I load, it's on the A7, A9, you get the message. You see what I'm trying to get at. Everything's running really, really smooth, you know. There is no hiccuping. You know, I can multitask between all these different programs and it's working smoothly, it's working efficiently. Very, very, very happy with it. So I've only had it less than a week, and I'm finding all the software I need to use is working fine, but I have come across one compatibility issue which is irritating, and if it was my main computer or my only computer, it would be frustrating, and I wouldn't be able to use it, to be honest. And that is opening and saving to Microsoft NTFS files. I have downloaded the Paragon Microsoft NTFS app, software, whatever you want to call it. That works great on all my other Macs. Means I can plug in NTFS formatted drives, be it a USB drive, be it hard drive, whatever, and the computer will open it and save to it. But not the M1 chip. None of the software works with it. It either crashes out or simply won't open an NTFS file. So it could be a little while yet before Paragon and the other sort of software developers have created that. It annoys me, this difference between, you know, Windows and Mac. I'm a big Mac user, I'm not a fan of Windows, but I need the NTFS compatibility with my other Macs because I do some work with PCs and I have customers that are PC based, so I do have to provide content and files you know, on an NTFS drive. This will not open or save to NTFS at the moment. Well, I haven't found a way of being able to do it. That's my only niggle so far with this particular Mac. And also things such as this here, central, I use this for color grading. So I drop this, what's it, color grade central, I think that's what it's called, cinema grade, that's what it's called. So you drop that on a file like so, and what you're meant to be able to do, let's get rid of these angles, we don't need them up now. Get rid of the angles, let's bring that back up. So if I load up the controls for cinema grade, so it loads up the controls fine, but the minute I try to do anything, so let's just go into that and adjust, crashes, and then you get a crash dialog, plugin crash. So I suspect there will be other plugins, not just for Final Cut Pro, but for other bits of software where it's not configured for it yet and it just doesn't work with it. And lo and behold, there's the crash warning. So, you know, I would absolutely say, if you're looking at buying one of these computers, do so because they're great. But either don't do it in the middle of working on other projects, or have another computer as well, so you've got a backup in case you have issues with the M1 chip, which I'm having, but it's not really affecting my editing at all because I don't need to use that color grade central for color grading, and I don't need NTFS compatibility for my own stuff. So it's a great, you know, system. It's so fast. That's the thing about it. It's its fluidity and its speed, and I'm thoroughly enjoying using it. And it takes up not a lot of space on your desk whatsoever, and it runs quiet, as everyone is saying. I'm not the first to say that. I've not heard the fan kick in. It's brilliant. It is really efficient, and its power consumption is next to nothing. It's way down the Richter scale, next to nothing. So I think you can tell I'm suitably impressed and suitably excited with the Mac Mini. I've been using Macs for many years. I love Macs. I detest PCs passionately. I hate turning the PC on. and I get really angry when it won't do something. So I'm a big Apple fan, although to be fair, I use a Samsung mobile phone. I don't use my iPhone. But there we go. That's my initial thoughts on the Mac Mini M1 chip. I will be doing more videos on this once I've got me head around it, and hopefully once some of these incompatibility issues are fixed. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I really do enjoy making these videos. I really hope you enjoy watching them. And if you do, please hit the like button. And if this content is useful, please subscribe and stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography. So thanks very much and stay tuned for more videos. Cheers for now. Bye.